Good morning. It's Monday, October 20th, 2025. This is Rob Sin at CEO Technician on X, at Goldfinger on CEO.ca, and this is Goldfinger Capital on YouTube. So, one of the great things about the year 2025 is not only the rising gold and silver and copper prices and the focus on critical minerals all of a sudden, and really about like made in America copper, rare earths. How do we make American mining great again, right? All of these wonderful things that are super positive for the mining industry, but also companies have started to really come of age. Companies that I followed for 5, 6 years have laid the foundations through hard work and planning for impactful drill programs and the potential to make new discoveries here in 2025 and into 2026, quite frankly. And so I want to highlight 3 U.S. explorers. First one is Ridgeline Minerals. Second one is Corcel Exploration. Third one is Bitterroot Resources. So Arizona and Nevada. Okay, so these are the 2 states we're focused on, basically the 2 best mining states in the U.S. I know Idaho people will argue that, Wyoming people might even argue that, Utah might argue that, but really, Arizona is number 1 for copper, and Nevada is number 1 for gold. It's really that simple, quite frankly. Okay, and why I like these 3, well, they're all thinking outside the box. Okay, that's number 1. They're doing things a little differently. They're looking in places where others have overlooked, or just majors. It didn't fit their model, for the majors, and so these juniors have to show them a discovery to get them to pay attention. So hopefully that's what's about to happen. Also, Arizona and Nevada are tier 1, right? It doesn't get better than these area codes in the mining industry, than these zip codes, right? If a discovery is made in any one of these 4 projects that we're going to talk about here between these 3 companies, it's going to matter. Okay, it's going to matter, and it's going to get the attention of larger mining firms just because of the location in the U.S. in literally, top 5 tier 1 mining jurisdictions, right? And so we start with Ridgeline. And I know Chad might say, why are you putting me with these 2 earlier stage companies? Well, I got to show a little bit of everything. I got to show a 35 million market cap, and I got to show a 10 million market cap, right? And more shots on gold. But the key thing is, they're all U.S. explorers, and they're all either drilling right now or they're about to drill. So that's what you have in common with the other companies, Chad. But world-class locations, the earn-in agreements with NGM and Sal 32. So with Ridgeline, you're partnered with some of the biggest mining companies in the world straight out of the gate, right? So that gives you validation. It de-risks the company. It shows that these geos know what they're doing. They know how to find projects that could make a difference, that could really matter. And there's the potential for discovery. And honestly, that's what it's all about. Like, that's how money is made and shareholder value is created in the junior mining sector, discovery. So capital structure, really cool thing about Ridgeline too. I can't say the same thing for Corcel or BTT, but Ridgeline, Chad told me we're not raising money in the next year. We've got some 18-cent warrants, almost 10 million 18-cent warrants expiring May 2026. We hope those will come in. We think those will come in through our drill programs at Selena and Swift and other news flow the company has. And also they have an equity stake in a company called Spartan Metals, a tungsten spinoff, and he hopes to monetize some of that, a portion of that, in the next year, right? And so that will provide enough capital to fund the company through 2026. So if a discovery is made, if he pulls a hot drill intercept at Swift or Chinchilla Sulfide, he's not going to come with a financing. Oh, here, we're going to issue 20 million shares now at 30 cents. No, that's not going to happen. So you've got torque here. The share price can really move. It can break out above 30 cents in the event of a discovery, in the event of a really good drill hole. Here's your leverage to discovery. So Ridgeline is invested less than 10 million in these three projects, and the partners are funding US 60 million of exploration drilling, right? So that gives you torque. I mean, in the US, really 10 million is not really enough to bring a project all the way to the end zone. You need 30, 40, 50 million dollars. I mean, especially when the drilling is deeper, you're talking about 1,000-meter holes or 1,200-meter holes. You need these big companies to partner with you, and that's what Ridgeline's been able to do. So let's talk about Selena. It's in this porphyry CRD belt in the eastern part of the state. Swift is in the Battle Mountain trend. Basically, so the cool thing about this is between these two trends, Carlin and Battle Mountain, you've got basically 2/3 of the gold production across the entire state just in these two trends. The state itself produces over 4 million ounces of gold a year. And again, you've got 2.4, 2.5 million just coming from these two belts right here. Okay. So Selena, CRD target, is next to a porphyry. Freeport McMoran is next door with the Butte Valley porphyry. So it's in the right setting. That's how it goes. You get a porphyry, then the CRD next door, and then you get the epithermal gold and silver closer to surface, usually in the oxides, right? And we've got that exact setting at Selena. So let's dig down here. South 32 is funding the drilling right now. We got 3 holes being drilled in 2025, and they're on hole 2. So boom, there's 1, 2, and 3. Oh, this slide shows a little delayed. Okay, there's 1, 2, and 3. So we've drilled hole 1. We're in the midst of hole 2. And here's what hole 2 looks like. Chad really is bullish on hole 2 just because of the orientation of the hole and the fact that it cuts through all the different zones of the MT anomaly, and it will go all the way through the anomaly, right? So they'll get a full sampling of what is in this big MT anomaly in hole 2. And what is the MT anomaly? Well, it's an area of high conductivity, right? So the rocks here are much more conductive than the rocks around it, right? And that is characteristic of sulfides, CRD sulfides, right? Like massive sulfides, maybe, right? Sphalerite, chalcopyrite, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so that's Selena. Let's move on to Swift, right? So Battle Mountain trend. This is the gold target. This is the Fourmile analog. And if you don't know what Fourmile is, look up Barrick Mining, used to be Barrick Gold, and the news release they put out in September about Fourmile. They're seeing like somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 million ounces at a 0.5 ounce per ton gold, right? So this is super tier 1, right? It's actually redefining what tier 1 really is. And that's Fourmile. And it's no accident that NGM, which is operated by Barrick as a larger partner in the JV, is the partner, their earn-in partner here at Swift, right? And so what are we doing here? Well, we've got a major size land position in a tier 1 belt in a tier 1 state, the best gold mining state in the U.S. And we've got gold all over the property. Okay, you can see they've drilled gold all over the property. Now, they haven't had a discovery hole like 20 meters of 20 grams, right? We haven't had that moment yet, but there's been a lot of sniffs, a lot of confirmation that this is fertile ground for a gold discovery. And so now you just have to keep persisting until you finally drill that hole that really matters. And we had a really good one last year, hole 6, tagged into 2.7 meters of 7 grams. So that's the best one to date. including 1.1 meters at over 10 grams, right? That shows that Swift can host high grade gold, right? The potential is there. They just need to put these holes in the right places, into the favorable stratigraphy. So we want to get into the Hanson Creek Formation, Roberts Mountain Formation, Slope Facies, Limestone. We want to get into these carbonate rocks that that soak up the gold-bearing fluids and act as traps for the gold, right? And so that's what they're doing here in 2025. Yes, they're deep holes. It's deep targets. You're drilling 1,000-meter holes. Actually, some of these holes might be 1,200 meters, actually. But it's being paid for by NGM, right? So we got a bunch of shots on gold here for a potential Carlin-style gold discovery in Nevada. And it's cool that this rock looks exactly like the stuff that Barrick is drilling at Fourmile that grades 30 grams per ton. Now, we don't know what the gold grade is. We can't see it. There's no VG in this. It's very, very fine gold. But I can tell you, I've talked to some geos and said the stuff at Swift that, Ridgeline has looks exactly like what Barrick has at Fourmile. So now we just need to find the stuff that looks like this that actually grades 30 grams per ton. And here's the significant drill intercepts. And then here's, of course, Barrick highlighting. They've highlighted Swift several times. So this is in the Q3 2024 presentation. Well, they just did one in September. Look at their latest corporate presentation. They also show Swift on the map and how this is part of their near mine growth and exploration project portfolio. Okay, so that's Ridgeline. And let's just summarize quickly. So what are the positives for RDG? Senior producer size drill targets. Yes, drilling is underway at the top two of the flagship projects of the company. Top-notch management, very good scientific work being done by Ridgeline to advance their project portfolio. We know about the Tier 1 jurisdiction. We talked about no financings next year. And the main thing is, if they drill that hole, it's going to matter, right? If they make a discovery, it's going to be a discovery that matters. Okay. And what are the negatives? Well, yeah, they're going to be a minority owner. If they hit that 20 meters of 20-gram hole at Swift, they're going to be a minority owner. But, when you're talking about a potential Fourmile, discovery, you're talking about a discovery that could be worth over $1 billion. So having 20 or 25% of $1 billion is pretty good for a 35 million market cap company. And obviously the drilling is deep, so it takes a long time. It costs a lot of money. That's definitely a negative. But honestly, in 2025, to make a great new discovery, you've got to drill deep, right? You've got to go where others just aren't willing to go. Okay. So now I move to Arizona with Corcel Exploration. This is about a 10 million Canadian market cap. CEO is John Ward. I'll point out Roy Gregg, Dr. Roy Gregg, PhD, PGO. He's the QP for Corcel. Charlie Gregg's son, super smart young geo, hungry, smart, extremely qualified. And so Corcel is very lucky to have him, I think. I'll just run down the positives for Corcel. So it's Arizona. This is the mining state in the U.S. Corcel is looking for porphyry copper, skarn copper. Arizona is the place to find it, quite frankly. So that checks a box. They're thinking outside the box. They're in the western side of Arizona, near the Baghdad mine, which is owned by Freeport. So it's a less studied, less frequented area of Arizona, away from that main Arizona copper belt area near Resolution and the Ray mine. Historical grades, there was mining here in the 40s, 50s, pretty high, above 3% copper average grade. And there was some drilling, less than 4,000 meters of drilling, core drilling in 2006 and 2011. Some pretty good drill intercepts, quite frankly. Okay, the project hasn't been drilled deep. And there's a significant surface footprint. Negatives, well, it's super early stage. Right, this project hasn't seen a drill since 2011. Obviously, everybody's going to ask, well, why did the companies that drilled it in 2006 and 2011 not keep it? Why hasn't it been drilled since, right? Well, that's another question for the CEO, John Ward. But I can just tell you 2011 was an active year in the mining sector. 2012 was a more bearish year. 2013 was a very bearish year. So quite likely the project just went dormant along with the sector, as often happens. And yeah, it's super early stage, and they need to prove scale with the drilling, right? So surface exploration, soils and rock chips is one thing. It's a good start, but you really need to prove it with the drill. Okay, so the Yuma King property in west central Arizona, it's about less than 2 hour drive from Phoenix. Quite frankly, the closest operating mine, as I said, is the Baghdad mine, which is a very big copper porphyry mine operated by Freeport. This was a past producer. So copper, lead, gold, and silver was mined here. The property position that Corcel has assembled is substantial. It's over 10,000 acres in total. It's all BLM, so that's good. It's pretty easy to permit drill programs on the BLM in Arizona. And obviously it's Arizona, so you're near roads, you got power, copper smelters in the state, a lot of infrastructure advantages if you make a discovery at Yuma King. And I'll just point out very quickly, here's the 3% copper grades, okay, and that's oxide copper. So that makes a big difference. You don't need a smelter to process that and turn it into copper cathode. That's very important and adds value to the project. And here's the average copper grade of the production in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, 2.3%. So it's high grade. And it hasn't been drilled deeply. And they've just been focusing, the old timers just focusing on the near surface skarn, the copper oxides. Okay, so there's obviously, if there's a skarn, there's a porphyry that very likely drove it. Now, finding that porphyry and whether that porphyry is intact and how high it grades, well, that's a whole nother question. That's why you need diamond drilling to figure it out. But look at some of these intercepts from 2006 from Big Bar Gold. 51.8 meters of a half gram gold and 0.7% copper was some silver. That's a very good drill intercept. If Corcel drilled something like that, I think the market would probably like it. And so they're going to do a maiden drill program here in the next couple of months at Yuma King. It's going to be 2,000 meters or so of core drilling. They're also going to shoot IP, which will be very helpful, especially in this northern area where they've also identified this Three Musketeers target. And, look at the high-grade gold and rock samples. I mean, you've got 9 grams, 17 grams, 7 grams gold sitting at surface. Impressive. And then just look at the surface footprint here in this northwestern area. Okay, we're talking about over 2,000 meters east-west. We're talking about 1,000 meters or so north-south. That's a substantial copper in soils, moly in soils footprint, indicative of a buried porphyry somewhere. Okay, so porphyry projects need 10, 20, 30,000 meters of drilling to really figure them out. So 3,900 meters of core drilling in 2006 and 2011 is just not enough to unlock a project like this. So hopefully Corcel will be able to do it justice and get off to a good start in phase one. All right. And so we've got IP, hyperspectral, refining the 3D model, and then core drilling around the Yuma King mine area and potentially testing this Three Musketeers area here at the end of the year. And so that's Corcel. And this is the map of Arizona. So you can see like the cluster of porphyry copper mines. This is the Arizona copper belt that everybody talks about. Baghdad is over here. Baghdad is like this outlier, and Yuma King is over here too, right? But there's a bunch of porphyry copper prospects over here on the western side of the state. It's just not an area that has been analyzed as much. And the big companies like BHP and Rio and Freeport have been focused over here where there's even more infrastructure and there's smelters. There's a couple smelters at Globe and near the Ray mine, right? So the miners go to the low-hanging fruit. They let the juniors venture out into the more untested territory, like what Corcel is doing. So that's standard. Bitterroot Resources. So this is the third one. Nevada, Walker Lane Trend. This project was staked in 2022. So the company, the CEO, Mike Carr, staked the project himself in 2022. And basically, he used good old-fashioned maps, and the concept of the best place to find a gold mine is next to a gold mine. So there is a company next door now called A2 Gold that has the Boss mine and two deposits, the Castle and Berg deposit. So there's proven gold at surface, in oxides, near surface, next door. He did an airborne mag survey, spotted a bunch of anomalies that looked really good next to the A2 gold ground, staked it at the bottom of the market in 2022 when nobody was interested and nobody could care less. And now it matters a little bit more here in October 2025. The company has money. The phase one program will be 3,000 meters plus of RC drilling at Nighthawk. It's called Nighthawk in the Tonopah Gold District of Nevada. Let's go ahead to that part of the slide. Here we are. So here's the Walker Lane Trend that runs basically from Arizona, south of Vegas, actually near where the Yuma King project is. That's the southern extent of it. And it goes all the way past Reno to California. So sort of in the middle of the Walker Lane here, the Nighthawk Gold project, west of Tonopah, and it's right off a highway. So literally, it's not, this is what Nighthawk looks like, but there's a highway right over here, right? So you're like a mile off of, or a mile or two off of a highway. Here's the highway, and here's Nighthawk, right? Here's the Boss Mine, Castleberg deposit. So the A2 gold ground is over here. And, there's an interview up on YouTube with Mike where he explains the targeting and what they're going to be focused on. But this kind of summarizes it. Here's like a half dozen drill targets, all lines up with regional structures, with surface anomalies, soil pH anomalies, and mag anomalies. Okay, mag high, mag low. Obviously, when you're looking for epithermal gold and silver, both can be interesting. Both a mag low and a mag high can be interesting. But yeah, it's a phase one program with the RC rig. So we're drilling for grade, starting out, like what's really interesting, what shows us some joy with the drill. And then obviously phase two could be much larger, and it could be with some core drilling part of it as well. A2 next door is doing a 20,000 meter drill program right now. Most of it is RC drilling, but they're doing some deeper core holes as well to understand structure and test some deeper target theories, essentially, right? And so this area is suddenly gotten very active. 3,000 meters of drilling from Bitterroot, 20,000 meters from A2. You're going to have a lot of news flow, potential for new discoveries here. And frankly, this is so far under the radar. The only people talking about this are me and some close friends and investors I talk to on a regular basis. And it's Nevada, it's Walker Lane, it's near highway, it's near surface. So if Bitterroot has good drill results here, if they make a discovery, it's going to have torque. It's going to matter. By the way, this is my favorite target of the 6 or 7 that Mike is going to test. It's called the Line 22 target. It's basically interpreted to be a porphyry copper gold target. The anomaly is 1,000 meters in diameter. The soil pH anomaly lines up perfectly with the center of the mag anomaly, and you've got high grade gold and float on the perimeter of the mag anomaly. It's just textbook, right? Let's see what the drill says. Negatives, early stage in an area that's never seen a drill. So the range of outcomes is super wide. And, failure is to be expected, quite frankly, right? Company's been around a while, never made a big discovery before, right? So you can just kind of say, nah, they're never going to find anything. Just stick with the trend. Company is underfunded. So when they drill, when they spend this money for the drill program, they do some more G&A over the next 6 months, they'll have to finance again in 2026. You can bet on that for sure. And they've got projects in a different state, different metal, nickel. So maybe the attention is split a little bit. Maybe they should focus on gold or just on nickel. There's some negative things you could say about the company for sure. But I like my odds from a $9 or $10 million Canadian market cap, swinging big with thinking outside the box in the best gold mining state in the U.S., right next to a gold mine. And that's it. So these are my 3 U.S. drill spec ideas for Q4 2025. If you enjoyed this, please hit the like and subscribe button and have a powerful trading week.